Hey everybody, welcome back. Today we are going to talk about hobby farms that you can get in South Central Missouri for under $300K. Let's dig into it. Moving to Southern Missouri is the best thing I've ever done for my family. So the first farmstead we're going to look at is in Wright County, just outside of Mountain Grove. The address is 1380 Morris Road, Mountain Grove, Missouri 65711. And we are going to go over the numbers, where the price started and where it's at now. And we're going to kind of break down valuation how I like to, which is looking at acreage, outbuildings, and then of course your square footage for your home. All right, let's start. So I have kept my eye on this property. It started at, let's see, $349. Yeah, it started at $349, and I pretty much can look at a property right off the bat and know if it's being overvalued. And this one was because it does need updating. The electric heaters are super old. They're 53 years old. A lot of the systems are just not updated. It does have a newer roof. So it did get a newer roof in 2022. But yeah, I kind of knew instantly at $349 it was overvalued. So this is a 3-2, so 3-bedroom, 2-bath on 11 acres. The finished square footage is 1,754, but it does have like a whole, I would say another, maybe like 500 or more square foot in the basement that's unfinished, that has like the wood furnace and some of the pipes and things like that exposed for working on. So potentially you could maybe finish off some more square footage, but let's just say it's close to an 18 square foot home. So at the original price, that put it at $180 per square foot, and that is super pricey. But when you look just at that square footage, I do like to break it down further because of course there's acreage. In terms of outbuildings for this property, there's kind of a cute wooden junior barn, and then a really fairly nice functioning dog kennel. It looked like it had maybe 12 different like cages in there. I'm not sure exactly, but it had AC, so it's got electric, newer building. And so I do like to kind of break things apart in terms of what is on the acreage. So if we were going to, let's say, value this acreage at $4,000 an acre, so it's 11 acres, so we've got $44,000 that we're going to attribute to the land. I think you'd probably place the kennel at $20,000. Now, ironically, it might be hard to rebuild at that depending on who you hire, but I think that's kind of how an appraiser would see it. So yeah, I'm going to say that we are at $64K plus the house. Okay, so if we did that, if we calculated that at their original price, that would take us to $285 for the house, and that's still $162.49 per square foot. And that, in my mind, is still high for something that is as outdated as this building is, this home is. So that's where I kind of knew instantly when I saw this property go on market. And it's, they've canceled the listing, I think once or twice. So it's been on market. I haven't added up all the days with all the canceled different listings, but I would say it's been on for at least a year. So this one has dropped a lot, and that's why I've kept my eye on it. And I'll tell you too how I'm looking at it even from like an investor point of view. So the current price now is $269. So if we take away our original $44K for the land and $20K for the kennel, we're at $205 for the home, and that takes us down to $116.88 per square foot. Now that is not a bad price. I'm gonna admit I'd like to see it go for a little bit lower. Just, we don't know. They might be at their absolute bottom. Something good to know about this one is that it has not been occupied since 2023. I'm just gonna guess that there was an elderly couple or single person, and I don't know the story. Maybe they've been put into some sort of assisted living. That's happening a lot right now. Definitely we're seeing that transition in the market where people are moving more to, moving in with family, moving to assisted living, and they aren't using the home anymore. Now, I don't know it, but that can be a mixed bag with negotiations. What I have found is that sometimes that has incredible flexibility because the family has already figured out financially how to make it work for their family member in assisted living. And at this point, they might just be getting, pretty motivated, maybe even a little bit desperate just to get that chunk of cash to buffer those bills, But on the flip of that, I have seen some people be super rigid in negotiations, unfortunately, often leading them to not sell their properties because they're not flexible, because they kind of just have this set amount that they need to pay for assisted living, for the next years. And that's like their only retirement. And so they feel more concerned with losing any of that value. Like I said, we don't know where their absolute bottom is, but I would probably throw out an offer like $225 and be prepared to kind of hope and be prepared to finish at like $250. Of course, anything lower, you never know. Sometimes they just accept your offer. Sometimes they counter back at like $235 and you're stoked, But let's just say that you finish out at $250. So $250 is, almost about an 1,800 square foot home, 3-bedroom, 2-bath. It's all brick with a newer roof, so super, super good bones. There was once a settling issue and they had some foundation repair done. Of course, I would dig into that, but I now have enough experience with like just remodeling and sometimes nightmare jobs with foundations that I feel like I'm not scared to hear that. And if it was done right, it's actually not a deal breaker in my mind, but that would be looked into extensively. So in terms of calculations, so let's say we go to $250 for this farm. I'm gonna say since we're kind of reducing the price, we also reduce the acreage. So let's say we're calculating the acreage now around 3,500, which is really pretty rock bottom for Mountain Grove. And then we're gonna say that kennel's worth 15. So land and outbuilding, we're gonna value at 53,500. So if we take that from our 250, which would be our purchase price, we're gonna value the home 196,500, and that takes us to $112.03 per square foot. And that's not bad for a home that needs a little bit of work. Now, I personally, it's got an attic. I would like to see an HVAC go in. That can be pretty pricey. I would just say $15K or more in terms of ducting and all the work that would have to go into it. But let's just say like $15K there. And then definitely some new flooring. You could get away with some kind of maybe more like cosmetic stuff in the bathroom. It depends on how whole hog you'd want to like redo those. But I would say like at least 30,000 needs to go into the house eventually to really bring it up to date and to get it feeling really nice. I would definitely rip out the carpets. So I would just kind of want to be honest there. It does have its own well and it is on a septic. I'm going to assume that septic is going to need to be pumped and need a riser put on just because it's going to be probably older. I'd have it fully inspected. So considering all that, 112 isn't terrible. You know what I mean? That price isn't great if you're looking at this like completely from an investor point of view and you want to do a full gut. Like if you want literally it taken down to the studs, you would need to get this house honestly around this property around 200,000. If you wanted to do a full gut, this house is going to be to the nines, brand new windows, doors, sheetrock, everything. Yeah, you'd want to get this property around 200. I don't think that's possible, but I'm just throwing that out there from the investor mindset. Now to continue on the investor mindset, so I believe that you can definitely call this a potential hobby farmstead because it's got, I'm gonna say maybe 6 or more acres of pasture. It is gently rolling, but that's a-okay. Animals don't care, and it means it won't flood, so I personally don't have a problem with that. You've got your nice little kennel. We always have broody hens, and I actually would just use it as like a little chicken breeding operation, but you know, whatever, however you wanted to use it. It could be rabbit hutches. I mean, it is a very usable building. So there's definitely the hobby farm potential. If I was looking at it from an investor, across the road, there is 2 separate acres, and I would actually survey that, separate that, slowly develop that, either rent it or sell it, and then that would be increased profit, and yeah, remodel the home and then sell for a profit there. But yeah, I like to look at properties a bunch of different ways, and it's important to do even if you're buying a home as your primary residence, because guess what, you guys, even though we think about when we buy our primary residence as our forever home, it so often is not. And so it's good to think about exit strategies, because life is crazy and you never kind of know what's going to happen. But I have to say, I think this property is intriguing for the price point that it's at. And I also can't help but wonder how much lower that price could go. So that is our property. That's our subject property number 1. And I'm going to be honest, I'm going to keep my eye on it. If it continues to drop, it's just going to continue to be even a better deal down the road. So that is hobby farm potential number 1. Possible hobby farm number 2, we're actually going to find in Pomona, which is outside of West Plains. The address is 6031 Private Road, 1410 in Pomona. Oh, and the zip code 65789. Yeah, 89. So this one is intriguing because it actually has 23 acres with it, and they lay pretty nice, and it's all like fenced. It's got some cross fencing, kind of ready to go for cattle or horses or whatever, you know, sheep, whatever you wanted to graze there. It is a 3-2 as well, and this one's a little bit smaller. It's 1,704 square feet, and it's only been on the market 23 days. So we have not seen massive price drops yet. The current price is $299.9, and I would like to see it got for less than that. We are actually going to crunch the numbers at $275. Now, you guys, this is all hypothetical negotiations here. Of course, we don't know if they would accept $275, and we also don't know if they would go lower. To get to $275, I would start probably at $250 just to see. So yeah, we're gonna crunch our numbers at $275. Okay guys, so in our hypothetical negotiation situation on this property in Pomona, let's just say we get it wrapped up for $275. So people in Pomona might be upset when I say this, but land values are more affordable in Pomona than really Willow Springs, Mountain Grove, or West Plains. You tend to see prices, priced lower than those places when they're in Pomona. So I'm gonna attribute the 23 acres at $3,800 per acre, which is low. Like that's like the bottom of the barrel. So, these are like pretty aggressive negotiations. So at $3,800, that would take us to $87,400 for the land. Also, the outbuildings, we've got a lean-to, old barn, and like a carport. I'm only going to attribute $30,000 now. I know that's a little bit brutal, but they're nothing looks brand new, and we're not going to attribute tons of value there. So that takes us to land and outbuildings, $117,400. Okay, so then what I like to do is take that away from our offer, which would be $275. And we get left with $157,600 for the home. Now remember, the home was about 1,700 square feet. It was 1,704. So we go ahead and divide that, and we get $92.49 for our square footage price. And that's not bad. I would want to dig a little bit deeper into like the systems and whatnot. The roof looks great. It's like black metal, and it looks really pretty because the building is, I want to say it's stone. Yeah. So it just looks really nice. Now, I'm gonna be honest, there are renters in there, and they don't look like they've thrashed the place, but it also doesn't look like turnkey. So there may be, some money that has to go into this property, but the land looks great. I mean, with that barn and the lean-to, it's got the fencing. I mean, you could kind of just move in and rock and roll with your farm. So I really like that. So this one, I think, is one to consider for a hobby farm. So the third property is in Mansfield. So we're moving a little bit back west. And this one I've kept my eye on because when it came on the market, gosh, I want to say over a year ago, I knew it was so overvalued just because the home needs so much updating. But the land is beautiful, and I have to admit, I've kept my eye on it, just kind of curious what it would do. So the address is 1100 Highway 60, Mansfield, Missouri. It is 31 acres, which is awesome, and it has gone down a bit. So their original asking price was $380, and when I saw that, I was like, that ain't gonna sell at that. And they have dropped it down to $299.9, but it has been at that price point for a long time too, like I want to say 6 to 8 months, and also has not sold. So we know that the market is telling those sellers that that's not the price either. But it's really nice land, and it's in Mansfield, which means it's only about 40 minutes from Springfield. So it has desirability. It just has kind of a really funky old home. So it's a 2-bedroom, 1-bath. That, like, just statistically, those are really hard homes to sell because a lot of people have children. And two beds and only 1 bath is tough. The square footage is smaller too. It's only 1,451 square feet. So, that does make it a little bit more undesirable. The land is great, and it's a great location. We're going to calculate this one at $275 as well. These folks have been super slow to reduce their price. I don't know that they would take $275. I think at this point they should, because it's been on the market for a very long time. So we are going to calculate our numbers at $275, and I bet they're going to turn out pretty good. Let's check it out. So I valued this land at $3,800 an acre too, which, remember, that is absolute bottom of the barrel, but some of it looks gentle, but maybe there are some steep portions. I would say maybe a little bit more than half is in pasture, but it could be about half. Just to play it on the low side, I am going to say $3,800 for the land. It only has a detached garage, really, in terms of outbuildings, so we'll give them $10,000 there, and that might be giving it too much. But so we're going to say land and outbuildings is $127,800. So if we take that from our $275, which would be our purchase price, we are going to then be left with a home at $147,200. We're going to divide that by our square footage, which is 1,451, and we are going to be left with $101.48 for our square footage price. Now, that is not bad for a home that needs updating, but honestly, like the investor number, that would still be high. And that's probably why you have not seen investors swoop on this. People don't realize, to do full guts, you need to get properties really low. And I think that's where some sellers don't realize that, like, especially when they started asking for this property for $380, you can't ask for a premium price that really reflects more of a remodeled home price. And then I think where people sometimes have a really negative kind of attitude with investors, they don't realize how much, they're often putting in $20,000 to $50,000 to totally remodel these homes, and there has to be the spread, for profitability. But it is good to kind of consider the investor mindset, even if you're just looking for a primary residence, you're looking for your hobby farm. One, because you should kind of be realistic about what you might have to put into a property. And then also, like I said, number 2 would be recognizing that it's always good to have an exit strategy. Even if you're not thinking you'll sell, you probably will end up selling. Chances are. Okay, you guys, so that was our look at 3 potential hobby farms under 300K. Obviously, I would like to see them go well under 300K, just because all of them have quirks and all of them need work, and I think that that's reasonable. I think what we probably saw is that the Pomona one is maybe the best deal at 23 acres with that 1,700 square foot home. So yeah, depending on how aggressive negotiations could go and what people would accept, I would say that probably, yeah, Pomona might be the best deal. But something to consider still is that Mountain Grove property. You could survey off and subdivide that 2 acres across the road. That is how my husband and I did really well on our first piece of property here. Something to look at, even if you're not feeling like you're an investor, it can get your feet wet, because that is how we turned a good profit, was by actually subdividing. Oh no, we already had 2 parcels and selling them separately, and it makes things much more profitable. So just something to consider. All right, you guys, thanks for joining me. Let me know. My information is always in the description. Give me a call, text, email. We can Zoom. If you want me to run numbers like this on any properties that you're interested in, please let me know, and I can show you a good deal from a bad deal, and we'll start there. Awesome, you guys. Have a great day. Bye.